Have you ever watched a child say something so profound that words escaped you completely? A statement so mature it seemed impossible from someone who still needs help tying their shoes. This is the account of Marcus, a young boy from Pennsylvania who, at barely 5 years old, articulated concepts about existence and mortality that left even seasoned consciousness researchers stunned. Rebecca Hartman, recognized as one of America's foremost authorities on childhood past life recall, never anticipated that her most compelling evidence would emerge not from clinical sessions or documented cases, but from her own kitchen, spoken by her own son. We share real reincarnation cases on Reincarnation Chronicles. Don't forget to follow. Now, let's begin this extraordinary story. It began with what appeared to be an innocent question on a Wednesday afternoon. The Hartman household didn't fit the stereotype of families who explore metaphysical phenomena. They attended First Presbyterian Church every Sunday and considered themselves thoroughly conventional Americans. Rebecca was still developing her research methodology on childhood memory phenomena, and David, her husband, maintained what he called healthy scientific doubt about the entire subject. It was an unremarkable afternoon when everything shifted. Rebecca stood at the kitchen counter preparing dinner, mentally reviewing case files she'd been studying, when Marcus wandered in. The boy, with that unself-conscious directness only children possess, posed a question that stopped her cold. "Mom, why do people cry when somebody dies?" The question materialized without warning, without any preceding conversation that might explain such a weighty inquiry. Rebecca set down her knife and turned to face her son, searching for age-appropriate words. Before she could formulate a response, Marcus continued. "I don't get it. The person who died isn't actually gone, right?" His words carried a certainty that seemed impossible for his age. He spoke as if explaining something obvious to someone who'd somehow missed a fundamental truth. Rebecca felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't typical childhood curiosity. Something about Marcus's phrasing, the depth beneath his question, extended far beyond developmental expectations for a 5-year-old. The boy kept talking, moving through the kitchen with the casual comfort of someone completely at ease with the subject matter. "When people die, they just leave their body behind, like taking off worn-out clothes. The actual person keeps existing, just somewhere different." Rebecca stood frozen. Where had that explanation originated? Their Presbyterian church never touched on concepts like this. Rebecca herself was only beginning her academic exploration of consciousness studies, and she'd certainly never discussed these ideas with the children. "Marcus, sweetheart," Rebecca managed, "where did that come from?" The boy looked at her with those penetrating eyes, as if her question was redundant. "I just know it, Mom. I've always known it." And he resumed walking through the kitchen, spinning like any ordinary child, yet carrying wisdom that defied rational explanation. Rebecca tried processing what she'd just witnessed. As a licensed therapist and emerging researcher, she understood child development intimately. She knew precisely what to expect from a 5-year-old mind. What Marcus had just articulated existed miles beyond any developmental psychology could account for. But Marcus wasn't finished. With the ease of someone discussing weekend plans, he elaborated. "You know, Mom, when someone does a lot of wrong things in one life, they can get really exhausted trying to repair everything in that same existence." Rebecca's knees weakened. Where would a 5-year-old learn about karmic consequences, about actions echoing across lifetimes? She leaned against the counter, trying to maintain composure while her young son continued. "That's why sometimes it's easier to begin fresh," Marcus went on, as naturally as explaining why we change dirty clothes. "When the person dies, they can be born as a baby in a different family without carrying all that heavy stuff from before." The boy paused and looked directly at his mother. "See, Mom? It's actually better for them, because they won't waste energy trying to fix things that are too broken to fix. They can learn what they need to learn much faster if they start over." Rebecca realized she'd been holding her breath. Marcus's words echoed knowledge she was only beginning to encounter in specialized academic texts, in Eastern philosophical writings, in complex research papers. This was coming from her kindergartner. "And you know why people get sad?" Marcus asked rhetorically, tilting his head the way children do when ensuring comprehension. "They get sad because they don't understand this part. If they understood, they wouldn't be sad." Something about how he said "they" made Rebecca realize Marcus didn't include himself among those who failed to comprehend. For him, this was truth as evident as gravity. The boy took a few more steps, playing with a wooden spoon from the counter, but his voice maintained that unsettling gravity. "The person who died is going to be okay, Mom. They're starting a new adventure." Rebecca finally found her voice. "But Marcus, how do you know all this? We've never talked about these things in our family." Marcus smiled, that particular smile children give when adults ask silly questions. "I don't need someone to tell me, Mom. I remember." Before Rebecca could ask what he remembered, Marcus added, "Some things you just know from inside." At that moment, Rebecca Hartman understood she was witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't simply a precocious or imaginative child. This was an old soul inhabiting a young body, sharing knowledge that transcended conventional learning. What happened next left Rebecca even more unsettled. Marcus stopped playing with the spoon and turned to his mother with an expression mixing compassion and mild impatience, like someone dealing with a person who insists on not grasping something fundamental. "Mom," he said, with patience that shouldn't exist in someone so small, "you're thinking about someone who died, aren't you?" The question landed with such precision that Rebecca felt her throat tighten. How could Marcus know? In fact, Rebecca had been contemplating specific cases she'd been researching. Families shattered by loss, people struggling to find meaning in premature deaths of children, spouses, parents. This was exactly what occupied her mind when Marcus initiated this impromptu conversation. "People suffer because they believe they've permanently lost those they loved," Marcus continued, and now his voice carried a tenderness that contrasted sharply with the depth of his words. "But they haven't lost anything. The person continues existing, just in a different place." Rebecca realized she was trembling slightly. How could she explain to her research colleagues that her own son, raised in a traditional Presbyterian American home, was articulating concepts about soul continuity that philosophers spent centuries developing? "Marcus, do you remember being someone else before?" Rebecca asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the emotional storm inside. The boy considered this, biting his lower lip as children do when concentrating. "Not exactly, Mom. Not like you remember yesterday or last week. It's different." He paused, searching for precise words. "It's like when you know you've been somewhere before, but you can't remember when or who you were with." The analogy was perfect. Rebecca knew that déjà vu feeling, and Marcus's description showed an intuitive grasp of how interlife memories function. "But I know I've lived before," Marcus stated with conviction. "And I know I'll live again. Everyone lives many times, Mom. That's how we learn." The most striking aspect wasn't just the words themselves, but the naturalness with which he spoke them. For Marcus, discussing reincarnation was as normal as commenting on what he'd learned at school or what game he wanted to play at the park. And you're not afraid of death? Rebecca asked, genuinely curious how a child processed a concept that terrified so many adults. Marcus laughed, and for a moment he was just an ordinary child again. Why would I be scared, Mom? It's just like falling asleep and waking up in a new place. Sometimes you wake up in the same house, sometimes in a different house, but you always wake up. Rebecca had to sit down. The simplicity of the explanation was brilliant. Marcus had discovered a perfect metaphor for describing the death-rebirth process, one even a small child could understand. You want to know something? Marcus asked, approaching his mother with that mischievous smile all children have when about to share a secret. Rebecca nodded, unable to imagine what would come next. Sometimes, Marcus whispered, as if revealing the world's biggest secret, I think you're younger than me. The statement came with a genuine giggle, but his eyes maintained that disconcerting depth. Rebecca felt a chill down her spine. Something about how Marcus said that didn't sound like childish play. It was as if he genuinely believed his soul carried more experience than his own mother's. What do you mean by that, sweetheart? Rebecca asked, trying to maintain a casual tone, though inside she felt she was about to hear something that would forever alter her perception of her own son. Marcus settled next to his mother, swinging his legs as children do when sitting in chairs too tall for them. You still worry too much about things that aren't really important, Mom. Like this life is the only one you're going to have. The observation was so accurate that Rebecca was speechless. It was true. Despite studying reincarnation phenomena, she still grappled daily with anxieties, fears, and worries that consumed her energy. And here was her young son, gently pointing to one of the deepest aspects of spiritual wisdom, the importance of maintaining perspective. But don't feel bad about that, Marcus quickly added, noticing he might have sounded too serious. Everyone learns at their own speed. Some people need more lives to understand certain things. That's okay. The compassion in Marcus's words was genuine, but there was also an emotional maturity that left Rebecca deeply moved. How could such a small child demonstrate such understanding about spiritual evolution? Marcus, when you think about these things, do you feel different from other kids? Rebecca asked, worried that her son might feel isolated or misunderstood. The boy thought carefully before answering. Sometimes, yeah, he admitted. But it's not a bad thing. It's like knowing how to speak another language that most people don't speak. You don't get sad for knowing it. You just wait to find other people who also know. The analogy was brilliant. Rebecca realized Marcus had found a healthy way to process his difference, viewing it as a gift rather than a burden. And have you found other people who speak this language? Rebecca asked, using her son's own words. Marcus smiled widely. You're learning, Mom. That's why I can talk to you about this. He gave his mother a quick hug and jumped from the chair. But now I want to play with my toys. Talking about serious things gets a little tiring. And just like that, with the same naturalness he'd begun this extraordinary conversation, Marcus returned to being an ordinary child, running to his room in search of his action figures and games. He left Rebecca alone in the kitchen, trying to process everything she'd just heard. Rebecca looked around the familiar kitchen, the same space where minutes before she'd simply been preparing dinner. Now, everything seemed different. It was as if Marcus had opened a window to a realm of possibilities that Rebecca, despite all her study and research, was only beginning to grasp. At that moment, she knew she needed to document every word of that conversation, not just for her research, but because she'd just witnessed one of the purest examples of innate wisdom she'd ever encountered. When David arrived home that evening, he found Rebecca still sitting in the same kitchen chair, notebook in hand, writing intensely. She'd spent hours trying to capture every nuance of that extraordinary conversation with Marcus. "You won't believe what happened today," Rebecca said before David even had time to greet her. "Marcus, he said things that... David, it took me 3 hours to fully process everything he explained." David knew his wife well. He knew Rebecca wasn't given to exaggeration, especially regarding her work. If she was this impacted, something genuinely extraordinary had occurred. "Tell me," he said, sitting beside her, noticing the mixture of amazement and emotion on Carol's face. As Rebecca recounted the conversation, David listened in silence, occasionally shaking his head in disbelief. He knew Marcus better than anyone. He knew exactly what the boy's references were, what he'd learned at school, at church, with friends, and none of that explained where these profound reflections originated. "He really said all that?" David asked when Rebecca finished describing the part about starting over, about not wasting energy, about people getting sad because they don't understand. Rebecca showed the notes she'd made. "Every word, David. And it wasn't like he was repeating something he heard somewhere. It was as if he were accessing knowledge that already existed within him." At that moment, they heard small footsteps coming down the stairs. Marcus appeared in the kitchen, already wearing his pajamas, carrying his toothbrush. "Dad!" he shouted, cheerfully, running into David's arms. "You're home! Did Mom tell you about our conversation?" David looked at his son, trying to see beyond the appearance of an ordinary child. "She told me some things. Do you really believe everything you said to her?" Marcus nodded with conviction. "Of course, Dad. Why would I say things I don't believe?" The simplicity of the answer was unsettling. For him, lying about something so important would be unthinkable. "And where do you think this knowledge comes from?" David asked, genuinely curious. Marcus thought for a moment, as if trying to find a way to explain something very complex to someone who didn't yet have the foundations to fully understand. "You know when you wake up in the morning and just know what day of the week it is, Dad? You don't have to think hard, you just know. That's how it is with me and these things about life." He shrugged as if the explanation were obvious. "It's just that some people forgot how to know these things." David and Rebecca exchanged glances. The ease with which Marcus dealt with such complex concepts was impressive. But what touched them most was his naturalness. He wasn't trying to impress anyone or draw attention. For him, that knowledge was as natural as knowing his own name. "Marcus," Rebecca said gently, "do you feel good sharing these ideas with us?" "I feel happy, Mom. It's good to be able to talk about this with someone who won't think I'm weird." He climbed onto the chair next to his father. "Some people think it's strange when kids know things they don't know, but you understand." The answer revealed remarkable emotional maturity. Marcus had already learned to discern with whom he could be completely open about his perceptions, demonstrating social wisdom that went far beyond his chronological age. That night, as they tucked Marcus into bed, Rebecca and David realized their family had changed forever. They were no longer just parents of a special child, were guardians of an old soul who had chosen to come through them to share ancient wisdom with the world. A few weeks after that memorable kitchen conversation, Marcus surprised his parents again with an even deeper reflection. This time, the family was watching a movie depicting a character dealing with consequences of past mistakes. Rebecca noticed Marcus observing the screen with unusual intensity, as if processing something far more complex than the simple narrative unfolding. "Mom," Marcus said during a particularly dramatic scene, "that man is carrying a lot of heavy stuff from before, isn't he?" The observation caught Rebecca off guard. The film didn't explicitly mention concepts like karma or past life consequences, but Marcus was clearly seeing connections that escaped the surface story. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Rebecca asked, pausing the movie and turning to her son. Marcus frowned, concentrating to find the right words. "He's trying to fix things he did wrong a long time ago, but some of those things are from before he was born this time." David, who'd been listening to the exchange, felt that familiar chill that always accompanied Marcus's profound reflections. "How can you know this, Marcus?" "It's like when you break a toy and try to glue it," he explained, using an analogy that made sense to him. "Sometimes you can fix it well. Sometimes it stays a little crooked. And sometimes you need to wait until you're older to have enough skill to fix it properly, right?" The simplicity of the explanation contrasted with the depth of the concept he was transmitting. Marcus was describing how souls deal with unlearned lessons and actions requiring balance across multiple existences. "So you think people come back to learn specific things?" Rebecca asked, curious to understand how far her son's comprehension of these spiritual mechanisms extended. "Not exactly learn," Marcus gently corrected. "It's more like remembering. Remembering to be a good person, to be kind, not to hurt others." He paused, biting his lip as he always did when thinking about something complex. "You know when you're playing and forget to share toys, and then Mom reminds you that you should share? It's like that, only sometimes you need many lives to remember completely." Rebecca was impressed with the naturalness with which Marcus integrated complex spiritual concepts into analogies any child could understand. It was as if he possessed an innate gift for translating ancient wisdom into accessible language. "And do you remember things you need to learn in this life?" David asked, moved by genuine curiosity about his son's inner experience. Marcus smiled, but there was a seriousness in his eyes that David had learned to recognize as a sign he was accessing something very deep. "I know I need to learn patience with people who don't understand certain things yet," he said with unsettling honesty. "Sometimes I get impatient when someone can't see what's so clear to me." The answer revealed not only self-awareness, but also a mature understanding of the challenges in his own spiritual journey. Marcus recognized his own growth areas with a humility that was simultaneously touching and impressive. What impressed Rebecca and David most wasn't just Marcus's profound words, but how he applied this wisdom in everyday situations. On one occasion, when the family visited Marcus's grandmother in Ohio, who was going through a difficult period after losing a close friend, the boy demonstrated compassion and understanding that left everyone moved. The grandmother was clearly downcast, lost in memories and tears, when Marcus approached her with careful steps. Without saying a word, he climbed into her lap and simply stayed there, offering his presence as comfort. "Grandma," he said after a few minutes of comfortable silence, "you know your friend didn't really go away, don't you?" The grandmother looked at Marcus with surprise. "What do you mean, dear?" "People we love continue to exist, just in a different place. It's like when you move houses, but you're still the same person." Marcus spoke with a tenderness that shouldn't exist in such a small child. "Your friend is fine, Grandma. She's just in a new house now. And one day, when it's the right time, you'll visit her in that new house." The grandmother's tears changed from sadness to a kind of relief mixed with amazement. How could such a small child offer such consolation? "But I miss her so much," the grandmother whispered, hugging Marcus tighter. "It's normal to miss her, Grandma. It means you loved each other very much. But you don't need to worry about her. She's happy where she is now." Marcus paused, as if listening to something only he could perceive. "She wants you to know that everything is okay." Later that night, driving home, Rebecca asked Marcus how he knew what to say to comfort his grandmother. "I didn't know exactly what to say," Marcus admitted. But I could feel that Grandma needed to know there was nothing to worry about. Sometimes when people are very sad, they forget things they know deep in their hearts. The observation was deeply insightful. Marcus had identified that his grandmother's suffering came not just from missing her friend, but from uncertainty and fear about her deceased friend's well-being. "Do you really believe you can feel these things?" David asked, trying to understand the extent of his son's intuitive abilities. "It's not that I believe, Dad. It's like feeling when someone is hungry or sleepy. You don't need to believe, you just feel." Rebecca realized Marcus not only possessed intuitive knowledge about reincarnation and life's continuity after death, but had also developed empathic sensitivity that allowed him to perceive the emotional needs of people around him. "Marcus," Rebecca said gently, "do you feel responsible for helping people who are sad?" The boy thought carefully before answering. "Not responsible like it's my obligation, but when I can help someone remember something important they forgot, I want to help." He smiled. "It's like when you see someone looking for glasses that are on top of their head. You're going to tell them, aren't you?" The analogy was perfect and revealed a mature understanding of the balance between compassion and personal responsibility. Marcus understood he could offer perspective and comfort without carrying others' emotional weight. That night, Rebecca reflected on how her son had become not just a subject of study for her reincarnation research, but also a teacher, expanding her own understanding of the soul's nature and consciousness continuity. The true test of Marcus's wisdom came when the family participated in a consciousness research conference where Rebecca had been invited to speak. During the question and answer period, a psychologist in the audience harshly questioned the validity of past life memory cases in children, suggesting it was nothing more than childish fantasy fed by gullible parents. The criticism was specifically directed at Rebecca's work, and the situation became tense when the psychologist, who identified herself as Dr. Martinez, began using complex technical terms to discredit reincarnation reports, completely ignoring the therapeutic aspects and documented healings. It was then that something extraordinary happened. Sarah, Marcus's older sister, who was present at the conference, raised her hand and responded eloquently, mentioning how her own experience with past life memories had cured specific fears she had. But Dr. Martinez continued her skepticism, using pompous words without offering convincing alternative explanations. The tension in the auditorium was palpable. It was at this moment that Marcus, who'd been sitting quietly next to his parents, asked permission to speak. Rebecca hesitated, worried about exposing her young son to a potentially hostile environment. But something in Marcus's determined look convinced her. "Can I ask the doctor a question?" Marcus said, his voice clear and calm, echoing through the silent auditorium. Dr. Martinez seemed surprised that such a small child wanted to participate in the debate, but agreed condescendingly. "Doctor," Marcus began with a politeness that impressed everyone, "if a person does very bad things in one life, but then dies, what happens to all those bad things they did?" The question caught the psychologist off guard. It was a profound philosophical question formulated with childlike simplicity, but which went straight to the heart of fundamental questions about justice, consequences, and spiritual evolution. "Well," Dr. Martinez began, visibly uncomfortable, "that's a complex question." But Marcus continued with that characteristic patience. "Because if the person simply stops existing when they die, then the bad things they did are never fixed, right? And that wouldn't be fair to those who were hurt." The auditorium was completely silent. A child of barely 5 years had just articulated one of the most fundamental arguments in favor of soul continuity and cosmic justice. But Marcus continued. If the person continues to exist and can come back, then they have the chance to fix what they did wrong. And that's much better for everyone, because it means no one is left without justice forever. Dr. Martinez tried to respond with more technical jargon, but Marcus gently interrupted her. Doctor, I didn't understand those difficult words. Can you explain in a simpler way? The simplicity of the request exposed the emptiness of the psychologist's evasive answers. Marcus had demonstrated that sometimes the deepest questions require not academic complexity, but clarity of thought and emotional honesty. After the conference, while walking through the parking lot, Rebecca was still processing what she'd witnessed. Her son of barely 5 years had just defended complex spiritual concepts in front of an audience of skeptical adults, using logic so simple and clear. It had left even the harshest critics without an answer. Marcus, Rebecca said, stopping and kneeling to be at her son's height. Weren't you nervous speaking in front of all those people? Marcus shook his head. Why would I be nervous, Mom? I was just talking about things I know are true. It's like telling someone what color the sky is. You don't get nervous to say the sky is blue, do you? The comparison was typical of Marcus, transforming something that seemed extraordinary into something completely natural and logical. But the doctor didn't agree with you, David observed. How do you feel when people don't believe what you know is true? Marcus thought for a moment, walking between his parents while swinging their hands. I don't get angry or sad, Dad. Some people aren't ready to understand certain things yet. It's like trying to teach a 2-year-old to drive a car. It's not that they're stupid, they just haven't grown up enough yet. Rebecca was impressed with the emotional maturity of the response. Marcus had found a way to maintain compassion for those who disagreed with him, seeing the difference in perspective as a matter of development rather than personal confrontation. And do you think that doctor will understand someday? Rebecca asked, curious about how Marcus perceived the potential for change in people. Everyone understands in the end, Marcus responded with conviction. Some people understand when they're children, others when they get old, others after they die. But everyone understands in the end. The answer carried a cosmic patience that left Rebecca deeply touched. Marcus not only possessed advanced knowledge about reincarnation, but had developed a long-term perspective on human consciousness evolution. Marcus, David said softly, do you sometimes feel it's your responsibility to teach these things to people? The boy stopped walking and looked at his father with a serious expression. It's not my responsibility to teach, Dad. It's my responsibility to be an example. When you live knowing these things, people notice you're different. And then, if they ask, you can explain. Rebecca realized Marcus had articulated one of the most important lessons about spiritual leadership: influence through example instead of preaching. But sometimes, Marcus added with that mischievous smile that always appeared when he was about to reveal something special, it's fun to ask questions that make people think, like I did with the doctor. The observation revealed that Marcus perfectly understood the strategy he'd used at the conference. He'd consciously chosen to ask questions instead of giving lectures, allowing the very logic of the questions to reveal the limitations of skeptical positions. At that moment, Rebecca understood that her son wasn't just a child with past life memories or intuitive knowledge about reincarnation. Marcus was a master soul who'd chosen to come through her family to demonstrate how spiritual wisdom could be lived naturally, compassionately, and effectively in the modern world. Years passed since those first extraordinary encounters with Marcus's wisdom. As Rebecca documented in her research papers, the specific past life memories eventually faded, as happens with most children. But something far more valuable remained. Marcus grew up maintaining that unique perspective on life and death, that natural compassion for others, and especially that ability to see beyond superficial appearances. He developed as a creative, curious, and emotionally mature teenager, qualities Rebecca attributes directly to his childhood spiritual experiences. What this experience taught us, Rebecca reflects today, is that wisdom isn't a privilege of age or formal education. Sometimes it comes through small children who carry ancient knowledge in new hearts. Marcus's influence extended far beyond his own family. His words, documented in Rebecca Hartman's published research, have touched thousands of people across America and beyond. Parents who'd lost children found comfort in his explanations about life's continuity. Researchers found new inspiration in his ability to articulate complex concepts with crystalline simplicity. But perhaps Marcus's most important legacy has been demonstrating that spiritual wisdom and everyday life don't need to be separated. He showed it's possible to carry profound knowledge about the soul's nature and reincarnation while remaining a normal, playful, and loving child. Marcus taught us that children can be our most important teachers, Rebecca often says in her lectures across the United States. They come to us without the filters and prejudices we develop as adults. When we encounter a child like Marcus, who maintained access to ancient wisdom, we have the opportunity to learn not just about reincarnation, but about how to live more consciously and compassionately. Marcus's story also demonstrates the importance of parents willing to truly listen to their children. If Rebecca and David had dismissed Marcus's profound observations as mere childish fantasy, the world would have lost some of the clearest and most touching explanations about reincarnation ever recorded. This extraordinary story of Marcus is documented in Rebecca Hartman's research work, which has become a reference in American consciousness studies. Rebecca Hartman is a licensed therapist specializing in past life regression and one of the country's leading authorities on the subject, with her work featured on national programs and various documentaries. Marcus's wisdom teaches us that sometimes the deepest truths come to us through the youngest voices, carried with a purity and clarity we adults often lose along the way. If this story touched your heart and sparked your curiosity about reincarnation mysteries, leave your like so we can continue bringing these real and documented cases. Subscribe to Reincarnation Chronicles and activate notifications so you don't miss any of the extraordinary stories we share. In the comments, tell us, have you ever witnessed a situation where a child demonstrated wisdom beyond their age? How would you react if you were the parent of a child like Marcus? Your experiences and reflections enrich our community and help us better understand these existence mysteries. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message of hope and life's continuity, share this video. Together, we continue exploring the profound mysteries of human existence, always with the respect and seriousness these themes deserve. Inspired by the simple and profound wisdom of children like Marcus, who show us that death is just a transition, and that love and learning continue through all lives.